Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the program Democracy and the Rule of Law, a program where we'll take a look at topical national issues from the perspective of the rule of law and the Constitution. My name is Judith, Irenoa. First things first, we'll take a look at topical issues which made headlines during the week. On Monday, Acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo finally signed the 2017 budget. The final figure of 7.44 trillion naira was that which was signed by the which was approved by the National Assembly and forwarded to the executive. Earlier on Monday, the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, did say that his principal had asked Osinbajo to sign the budget. Shehu, in a statement in Abuja, said that the president conveyed his position to Osinbajo in a letter dated the 10th of June 2017, which was duly signed by the president himself. Therefore, Osinbajo, upon arrival from Awka, the Anambra State capital, where he attended the National Association of Law Teachers Conference, did sign the budget at about 4:40 p.m. on Monday. And on Wednesday, the allegations of false asset declaration against Senate President was removed, so to say, as he was acquitted by the Code of Conduct Tribunal, CCT. The chairman of the tribunal, Danladi Umar, said the prosecution failed to prove its allegations beyond reasonable doubt, and therefore, on that note, the allegations against the Senate President were dropped, and he was discharged and acquitted. And on Thursday, an appeal court sitting in Lagos ordered a fresh trial in a case involving former First Lady of Nigeria, Patience Jonathan. The court said this following the prayers of one Amajoyi Azubike Briggs, challenging the decision of the Federal High Court, also in Lagos, over the guilty plea allegedly entered by 4 companies accused to have laundered a sum of $15.5 million for Patience Jonathan. In his judgment delivered on Thursday, Justice Ugochukwu Ogwaku noted that the 4 companies charged for money laundering could not have pleaded guilty when they were not docked before the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos. Justice Ugochukwu thereby directed the lower courts to take the plea of the appellant Azubike Briggs afresh. On the program today, we'll be taking a look at the acquittal of Senate President Bukola Saraki by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. To stay with us as we return with discussions.
The agency is that they should be more meticulous, they should be more diligent, they shouldn't try people in the pages of newspapers. A case is as good as your preparation.
Democracy is the government of rule of law, not only government of the majority, but where ingredients of democracy are seen to be embodied in the democratic process. One of those things is the issues of rule of law.
Thank you for joining us once again. And with me in the studio today is Barrister Tunde Kolawole. You're welcome.
Thanks for having me, Judith, and good afternoon to all the good people of Nigeria.
All right.
We have always spared our time to listen to us every Sunday.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and also Barrister Michael Munlan. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. The CCT in Abuja has discharged and acquitted Senate President Bukola Saraki of all the 18 charges of false assets declaration leveled against him and other related offenses preferred against him as well. For a case, let me start with this, okay? For a case to terminate at the stage of no case submission, as we have seen in the case of Josadeni Ademola, and now in the case of Saraki, what do you make of this, Barrister Munan?
Very well. It is very pathetic, so to say, that this case had to end the way it has ended, although we foresaw it from the beginning because there were some political undertones playing out in the prosecution of the case. But it is quite unfortunate because it makes the international community to see us as very unserious human beings. The first one is, how do you exonerate or how do you discharge a defendant in a case that is patently clear that this particular charge or this particular offense was committed? For instance, in the amended charge, it was included that Saraki, while he was a senator, was also collecting money as collecting his salary as an ex-governor.
Yeah.
Was that not a charge that was provable? Was he not signing and collecting money from somewhere? How can you say that that is not established? Several other charges that, if you look at them, you see that no matter what happens, that there was a prima facie evidence case established against this person. And then you just simply, because of politics, you simply discharge and acquit.
You think it's because of politics?
I believe it is because of politics, because, as I said, because in the first place, it came into existence because of politics. Remember that the charges they are talking about, the offense they are talking about was committed since 2003, when Saraki became the governor. 2003 to 2007, 2007 to 2011, nothing happened. And then the one that involves collecting double salary, 2011 to 2015, nothing happened. Then when he became the Senate president, outside the box in quote, things began to happen. That was why I said that it is political. It was politically motivated. That was why they brought him, they charged him in the first place. And so to ensure that they gave him a soft landing, they had to look for a way to get him out so that the polity might not be unruly heated. There are several issues that are involved in this matter that if any reasonable person stands outside and looks at it, will know that these offenses were actually committed. And so the man should have been convicted as charged.
All right. Let's allow Barrister Kolawole to chip in.
Yeah, honestly speaking, I was shocked when the verdict came that Dr. Saraki has been discharged on a no-case submission submitted by his lawyers. But like my learned friend has said, we are not too surprised about all of this. Because
so you saw this coming?
Exactly. When you look at the undercurrent of this case, you can always predict the direction in which the pendulum of justice was going to swing. I give you an example. Of all the mountain of accusations and allegations against Dr. Bukola Saraki, why did the federal government, for example, go for this soft, very, very soft case of Irenoa Bukola Saraki before the Code of Conduct Tribunal, which at best will attract him not holding public office for a few number of years, and then he will forfeit a few assets that doesn't even make any meaning to him out of all several assets that he has all over the country. It must be deliberate that they went for that. The second one is that you find out the proof of evidence is too clear. Just like my learned friend said, that a man or a lawyer coming out of the law school can adequately and perfectly prosecute and get Dr. Bukola Saraki convicted on the charges before the CTC. Then you also ask yourself, when informations are compiled by the Code of Conduct Tribunal and forwarded to the CTC chairman for prosecution, he usually will go through the information and scrutinize it. Look at the proof of evidence before him. It is when he feels that there is reasonable reason or cause of action to go on with the case that he would give his go ahead for trial to start. Is Danladi Umar, who saw the information, didn't know that there is nothing linking Bukola Saraki to the commission of this crime before he agreed or accepted to take the matter to trial. Something is fishy there. The other area is that when you look at what has happened in between and all that, Danladi, who is the chairman of CTC, used to work in the chambers of Kanu Agabi. Dan Ladi's younger brother worked in the chambers of Kanu Agabi. Rotimi Jacobs used to be the special assistant, was the chief of staff of Kanu Agabi when Kanu Agabi was Minister of Internal Affairs. And when the EFCC, it was under Kanu Agabi that the EFCC was founded. And when you look at it from the beginning, most of the so-called juicy cases, since both Kanu Agabi left office and Rotimi Jacobs also left office with him, most of the so-called juicy cases coming from either EFCC and ICPC are always being found out to Rotimi Jacobs, even when he had never done justice in most of those cases. Are they the only lawyers in town? And in particular, why did Bukola Saraki go for Kanu Agabi? If not because of some of these nexus that I'm trying to trace, political interest.
Interesting.
So you also find out Bukola Saraki is a very, very smart person. There is hardly any security agency in this country or any serious institution in this country that Bukola Saraki does not have his person in there. At a time, his chief security officer was also, I think, a special assistant or the chief of staff to Farida Waziri. And Bukola Saraki was also instrumental, was one of those persons who recommended Farida Waziri to become the chairman of EFCC. This same chief security officer to Bukola Saraki is still holding a very important position in the Nigerian police today, and I will not mention his name. So, how do you now get some of these people to do the necessary thing they are expected to do, like taking the statement of Dr. Bukola Saraki, even when he refused to take, when all his men in some of these strategic places? Would they not frustrate it? You remember there was a time the special fraud unit said they wanted to interrogate Dr. Bukola Saraki and prosecute him for certain frauds. At the time, they even said they were going to hire Femi Falana to do the case. And then the soft landing was, as it was done in this case, was arranged for Bukola Saraki. What they did was the day he was to report at SFU in Lagos and said, yeah, pressmen and journalists were waiting at the main entrance of the SFU. They smuggled him through the back door. He entered, didn't stay 5 minutes. I wonder what statement he would have volunteered within that 5 minutes. And before you journalists realized what was happening, and he has been smuggling through the back door. And when the journalists were directed to go through the back door, that was seeing they are smuggling out of the front, they are disappear from the place. So, you also look at the witnesses that were called. This is so difficult. The GTB said all the documents relating to the transaction that Bukola Saraki made regarding the transfer of money were transferred for fire. At what time was it destroyed by fire? At what time was that reported to fire service? And was it only Bukola Saraki's documents alone that was destroyed? You and I know that banking documents are always kept in triplicates. There is the hard copy in the file, there were ones in the computer, there were some in some other security vaults. So even if one fire got one, these two other ones will be there for posterity for you to be able to access. But GTB came to court, and not only that, they also got the Nigerian police, which is an establishment of the federal under the presidency, to give them a report that fire actually consumed the document related to Dr. Bukola's transaction at GTB. All right. See the mountain and layers of conspiracy against this case.
I have to hold you there, Barrister Kolawole. So much you've said about the person of Senate President Bukola Saraki. He's smart. And I'm wondering, how can an individual be smarter than the government, the federal government in this case? Now, Barrister Muna, let's take a look at the prosecution, the quality of the federal government's prosecution team. The presidency has described this acquittal as a transversity of justice. And I'm wondering, what is the quality of those who represented the federal government on this case? Is the federal government not supposed to beam a searchlight inwards at this point?
Very well, very well. That is very important. Because when I read the case, and I discovered that an ordinary thing like obtaining the statement of the defendant of Bukola Saraki was not done. How do you now convince the world that you investigated the case when you have not, you have not been able to obtain the statement of the person you want to prosecute? That is to show the caliber of people that we have there prosecuting. That is to show the caliber of people that we have that are supposed to investigate. That is to show the caliber of people that we have at the helms of affairs in the prosecution team. So I see this as a very big shame to Nigeria that a case as sensitive as it was given to a particular team, and they were not able to carry out proper investigation, proper documentation to be able to convict, to be able to obtain conviction before you push the person to the court, you push the person to the tribunal. I see this as a very big weak point that the prosecution team has in this case. You see, I have seen a lot of things in this matter. In fact, immediately I read about it. I saw so many things playing out. Some of them deliberately done to forestall a situation that there will be conviction. You understand? Just like my lady friend has said, when you have the kind of person like Bukola Saraki or the hot seat, you can imagine they play out because of his antecedent, because of the people around him, because of his interest in the country. Now, they even say that this man, while he in 2010 obtained a loan of 375 million naira from GTB, the documents that got burnt by fire, allegedly. Good. Now, this loan was obtained while he was a governor, not officially. 2010, not officially, but as an individual. And then he used the loan to offset his mortgage money in UK, in one of his properties. And at the end, he said he used government money to pay back the loan. So you begin to wonder, what if you are prosecuting, you want to investigate? Why don't you ask? You were a governor as at that time. Why didn't you simply use the money in your government post to buy or to clear the mortgage instead of getting a loan from the bank and then coming back to use the same government money to pay back the loan? There were so many things that were involved in order to be able to cover up. So when the man was doing all this, he had already laid out a game plan, to ensure that nothing would be able to come out of the situation if somebody brings up the issue. And that is why it is difficult. It is very difficult for somebody to now pin him to the situation, especially when the bank has come out to say all the documents relating to this transaction had been destroyed by fire. It is that shameful. So we need you see, when we are talking of corruption, when we are talking of corruption issues, we have to take our mind back to those that are involved, those that are prosecuting, those that are complaining, the complainants, and all that. Have they passed this integrity test? Don't they also have corruption issues hanging around their name? In fact, the
track record of
these people. You have to know.
Best should be available to the government.
To the government, of course, they know. Like this, the chairman of the CCT, Honorable Justice Danladi Umar. We have, from what we read, that the man, in fact, was alleged to be involved in drugs and all that, and then at a point, he used to drive his vehicle when he's on that drug and then crash it and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you can even imagine whether somebody has used that to blackmail him, to tell him, if you don't acquit these people, this is going to be your Waterloo. We are going to bring out all this evidence to bring you down. So these are some of the things, because if you look at the charges very well, I still feel very strongly that there's no way Bukola Saraki would have been let loose out of this case without being convicted based on the evidence before the tribunal, based on the charges themselves. Because there's no way you would have told the whole world that this man was collecting salary as an ex-governor and at the same time as a senator without having evidence. They must have been signing a voucher to collect the salary. It must have passed into account and all that. And then at the point, the funniest aspect of this issue is that at the point that the matter was concluded, so to say, ended, no case submission, you are not expected, the tribunal is not expected to go into the merit of the case.
Exactly.
Once there is a prima facie evidence, call him to defend himself. That is the law. But in this case, they say that there was no prima facie evidence, including 48 documents, exhibits tendered. 48 exhibits were tendered. So none of these documents meant anything to the tribunal. So there's something wrong somewhere. Both the tribunal, the prosecution, everybody that was involved, they must have compromised issues to ensure that this man was given a clean bill of health. That's my thinking.
All right. Like I said earlier, the presidency, the president of prosecution, a special assistant to the president rather on prosecution, yes, Okoyo Obona-Obla, is wondering why the CCT dismissed the weight of overwhelming evidence against Saraki, who has been tried for false assets declaration. But let me read the ruling of the CCT, some of the ruling. The CCT chairman, Umar, in his lead ruling, exonerated Saraki of all the charges on, among other grounds, the failure of the prosecution, you mentioned that, yes, to obtain Saraki's statement and make it part of the proof of evidence. It described it as absurd that neither Saraki's statement nor the report of investigation said to have been carried out was produced before the tribunal. Also in his contribution to the ruling of the tribunal on Wednesday, co-member of the tribunal, Atedze Agwaza, who expatiated on the decision of the tribunal to free Saraki, noted that the Senate president was investigated by an illegal team comprising officials of the CCB, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the Department of State Services. He noted that such investigative team was strange to both the Constitution and the CCB and CCT Act under which Saraki was charged. I'm at loss here. You're saying the team which investigated him was made up of an illegal team of the EFCC, the DSS, and the CCB. How does all this sit with you?
Yeah, honestly speaking, the first one you mentioned, remind me again, the first one. So I start with that. Okay,
the failure of the prosecution to obtain Saraki's statement.
Now let's look at our constitution, and also look at the criminal code and the penal code. In those laws, there is nothing that says a suspect or a defendant in a matter must volunteer statement. In fact, when you get to the police station, when they want to take your statement, they will caution you and say, look, you have the liberty to remain silent or not talk. So for Umar to have anchored his decision on that is tenuous. It doesn't make sense. I think he's just looking at straws to dismiss the case or cut to the case of the prosecution. And then he also talked about the second one which you mentioned.
The Senate president was investigated by an illegal team comprising...
When you look at the crime that is committed or allegedly committed by the Senate president and other, you will discover that it cut across interagency organizations. Money laundering, stealing, forgery of documents, and etc. And when you look at the composition of the Code of Conduct Bureau, I'm not too sure that they have the capacity and expertise to really be able to do a thorough investigations of some of these things. They will require the collaboration with all these different agencies of government. And that is the way it is done all over the world. It is nothing strange to our law. Look at the Alibotin case. Look at how many countries and how many police, security agencies around the world are investigating that. And when they have investigated, they will collate their reports, and based on the report, they will file the charges, and then the head of the thing will go to court and then defend the case, prosecute the case. Here in Nigeria, to visit any of our security agencies, whether it's the police or whether it's the EFCC or whether it's the ICP, they work as a team. Can you call CCG team? This is a team and all that. And the reasons are obvious, so as to be able to get as much information as possible. So thirdly, the agencies set up teams so that it will be difficult to compromise the investigation.
Yes.
If you have about 5 persons in an investigation team, if one accepts to be compromised, the 4 other remaining may not be compromised. That is the reason why investigations are done by teams. So for Danladi Umar to also say that an investigation team is unknown to our law, it's also very, very strange to me. All over the world, that is the way it is done. Go to the police tomorrow if you are doubting me and find out they are in department, they are in units.
Yes.
To investigate. So, like my learned friend, I think what is playing out in this matter is just a case of lack of political will on the part of the government. And then the people in the presidency who are saying all this, they are also culpable. Very, very culpable in all of this. Why do I say this? I have noticed that in the presidency set up that special prosecution anti-corruption team and all that, they have been organizing more seminars and workshops and turning the whole thing to an academic exercise. Whereas what we would have expected of them is to go to court and even be doing a kind of watching brief for the government. And when you find that the prosecution team is faulty, is making a mistake, or they are not doing what is right, you assist them to do what is right. So, but you to sit in the course of the presidential office, and after the case has been lost, to now begin to make to pass blames, I don't think that lies in the mouth of Obla, whatever they call him. If they have done their responsibility and duties to the Nigerian people, including the Attorney General, who should have even taken it as a responsibility to prosecute the case. There's nothing stopping the Attorney General of the Federation for them to prosecute these cases. Yes. As important as these cases. But all of them, either because of one vested interest or the other, they went and hid behind the wall and put some of these other people to go and do the dirty job. At the end of the day, these boys who are now the fall guys, whereas the people like Opla, who also be blamed for not doing what they're supposed to do, and not for the general who is not doing what's supposed to do, are now looking like, you know. So these are the issues. The bottom line is that I am not too sure that the presidency or this government was really interested in prosecuting Bukola Saraki.
Very well.
I think because of the last matter, the noise in the media, they just want to use the prosecution to douse the tension. Yes.
But why leave Nigerians on? Nigerians were waiting. They were hoping this would be a litmus test for the anti-corruption war of the federal government. Now, why lead the whole country on if you were not really, like you said, interested in following this case to a conclusive end?
You see, the reason is very, very obvious. When you also look at this government, it is only one person that is really interested in the fight against corruption. Right. And that is the president.
The president himself.
If you look at most of these other people around there, I'm sorry to say, they are even more corrupt than even Bukola Saraki himself. Look at what is happening in some of these APC states. It wasn't even happening in the PDP states. The monumental corruption that we see in some of these places. So, and the corrupt people who have been working like a mafia, and I'm sorry to say this, when I first said this on Silver Bell, that I strongly suspected that Bukola Saraki, that Buhari has been poisoned by the corrupt people in this society. The Silver Bell people say I should not say that. But one is proving to be right. Now I'm told that Al Jazeera has done a documentary insinuating on this kind of the prognosis that I am making. Immediately the man was out of the scenario. Immediately they took him out of the scenario. Immediately they gave him the Yasser Arafat treatment. And you don't need, you can poison people in several ways, not necessarily through food. Mere handshake, mere putting something in their mic, going to their barber to put.
But that's a weighty allegation.
It is
very weighty.
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying is this. The reason, let me justify my conclusion. I am one of those people who was vehemently against the candidacy of for Buhari. I said at that period in time that I think with the challenges this country is facing today, that this man is too old for the job. Carrying the responsibility of Nigeria on his head will be like an old man carrying an elephant on his head. I don't know how he's going to succeed. I also said the economic challenges that the nation is facing, I'm not too sure that Buhari is intellectually equipped to face those economic challenges. And so when he was doing the campaign, I was always making inquiries with those who were on his team on how he was able to cope with the rigors of the campaign. And they will tell me that when the campaign till 2 a.m., 4 a.m. in the night or in the early hours of the morning. By the time they wake up in the morning, the man would have woken up at 5 a.m., done his prayers, would have dressed up and would have been waiting for them at the reception. When the young men were still snoring on their different beds. And suddenly, immediately after that campaign, he started this anti-corruption for his head suddenly collapsed. And you see, the man also said one thing, that even when he was in the military, as rigorous and as challenging as the military exercise and this one, he was never that sick. So he himself is already insinuating that something somewhere went wrong.
All right.
You must also remember that when Nuhu Ribadu was chairman of the AFCC, he was equally poisoned. And Obasanjo had to fly him abroad for treatment.
All right, but Kolawole, let's
so immediately they took Buhari.
Let's move away from that. And,
it was easy for the Umaru of this world, the Tanadi Umaru of this world, to do whatever they like, whatever decision they want to take.
All right, let's go back to the topic. Yeah. Still discussing the acquittal of the Senate President.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm still taking a look at the prosecution, the quality of the prosecution. Now that people have not done their jobs the way it should be done, that's the way I say it.
Exactly.
As the presidency is kicking, don't you think scapegoats should be made? The prosecutors, the lawyers, let something be done. Don't you believe?
Very
if something is not done, Nigerians will be disillusioned.
Good. That is what I wanted to say before. The moment you give somebody a particular case and the person fumbles, supposing you have a lawyer and you take a case to him and you discover that in the court the lawyer had fumbled and you lose the case, why should you go back to that same lawyer? In fact, the law makes provision for you to even sue him for negligence because he could not handle your case very well.
Exactly.
You can sue him for negligence and claim damages. So, but in Nigeria, the moment somebody loses a case, they just say, let us go on appeal. You go on appeal. A case that is clear enough for even, like my colleague said, a law school student to be able to prosecute very well and obtain conviction. And you go on appeal and then you bring more weighty cases to the same person. I think this is a time to bring the sledgehammer on some of these people. Those that are prosecuting, there should be an overhaul of the entire system, including the so-called security agencies that investigated. Everybody that is involved in this matter should be sanctioned one way or the other.
It's not enough to just say you will appeal.
Yes, it's not a matter of only appealing. Sanction all the people that were involved in the prosecution, and then bring in new people that will take over the appeal. Because if we hand over the appeal to them, they will also fumble at the court of appeal, and before you know it, the matter will be thrown out, dismissed. And then we come back to square one. So it is important to bring, to discipline everyone that was involved in this prosecution, so that you sit down and look at the loopholes. There are several loopholes that are there. Even though I am still not convinced that the cases or the evidence before the tribunal was not enough to convict the defendant, Saraki. There's nowhere you wouldn't have at least called him to defend himself. How can you say that 48 exhibits that were with you, and none of them had been able to link him up to the offense charged, including the ones that said that he collected money as a senator and at the same time as an ex-governor? Nothing there to show, including the ones that said that he owned so property, number 7A, and all that, and that he is the owner of the property, but then he did not disclose it. There are documents to show, for goodness sake, that this man owned the property. He did not disclose it in his asset declaration form. So why should we now say that all these things are, they were not enough proof, they were not, we do not have enough evidence to at least call him to defend himself. Because if this matter had gone all through, the whole arc, all through to the end, that is, if the defendant had been called in to defend himself, and at the end he gave his own evidence, Let him enter the witness box and let us hear him say all these things. At the end, he's cross-examined, and the judge now says, well, from the evidence before me, from what he has said, if you look at what was given and tendered by the prosecution, we cannot really correlate them together and then convict this man, because you have to give him the benefit of that doubt. So we dismiss the charges and acquit him. That would have been a different thing. But now, at the stage that we are, at the no case submission stage, the prosecution has given all this evidence. All the witnesses have testified. They were cross-examined. And then you now say that at this stage, there's nothing to link the offenses charged with the defendant. It's not right. So apart from the fact that we see a political game playing out in the tribunal, everyone that was involved in the prosecution needs to be disciplined, so that next time when there is any important case coming up like this, somebody will now know that if I don't handle this case very well, if at the end of the day the whole thing collapses on me, then I have a price to pay. Once that is done, somebody will be active, somebody will be careful, somebody will be prepared to do the right thing, so that at the end of the day we don't make Nigeria to resemble, to shame Nigeria the way it is.
Let me quickly chip something before we proceed.
All right, briefly.
Yeah, this is not the first time that this Code of Conduct Tribunal is going to do this. They did a similar thing in the Tinubu's case. You know, that case was dismissed.
Yes.
I was going to say, it's not the trend of cases with the CCT.
Exactly.
It's like a
and
trend.
And what was it? They said the prosecutor didn't obtain the fiat of the Attorney General to prosecute the case. At most, what you could have done is to strike out the case so that he goes back, obtain the so-called fiat to prosecute the case, and the case was moved forward. But Umaru didn't do that. Umaru outrightly dismissed the case. And when the case is dismissed,
you cannot.
That's all. All right, you're still watching Democracy and the Rule of Law. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Just stay with us. All right, you're watching Democracy and the Rule of Law, and we're discussing the acquittal of the Senate President at the Code of Conduct Tribunal over false asset declaration. He was accused of having falsely declared his assets, and now the Senate President is free, so to say. All right, we're still looking at the quality of prosecution. I have some reactions here, yes. And just joining us on the program before I go on is Barrister Ahmed Gbedamosi. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll start with you there with some senior advocate of Nigerians too. Emeka Ngige is a senior advocate of Nigeria, and Chief Onweze Okocha said the witnesses presented by the federal government in Saraki's trial were responsible for the loss of the trial, saying that they worked at cross purposes with the government. And also, Chief Okocha said the prosecution of the case was weak. I'll take you on that. The witnesses blaming the outcome of this case on the witnesses presented by the FG. Do you think the witnesses contributed to this case in a way?
In my own opinion, I think that would be totally false or untrue. Because it is the duty of the prosecution to ensure that before they even approach a court or a tribunal in this instance, they ought to have perfected their case. They ought to have put forth a case against the accused person that there would be no loophole for this kind of issue. Now, you don't prosecute a case all the way and you blame the loss of the case or the acquittal of the accused person
to the witnesses, on the
witnesses who ordinarily are persons that were invited to come and ensure that the case is successful, as it were. It is the duty of the prosecution to ensure that the witnesses brought forward whose statements had earlier been taken. They were not just brought from their office and brought to court. They made statements. And these statements would have been put before the court. All the witness need to come and do is to just shed more light on it. Now, you don't blame the witness for bungling a case. The prosecution has all the responsibility and should accept it for whatever happens in this case.
All right, would you say the quality of prosecutors on this particular case actually determine its outcome? the case of Saraki and the quality of prosecutors, the federal government's prosecutors. What do you make of this, the prosecutors?
I personally think the prosecutors did a very bad job because, in my own opinion, it was a very straightforward case, a case that ordinarily not to have been lost. So if we lose it after waste of time and money, and even the propaganda that surrounded the case.
The media hype.
Yes, it ought to have put the prosecutors on their toes. Now, for them to come up at the end of the day and say the witnesses should be blamed, I think that is totally unacceptable.
All right, Barsamona, let's quickly take a look at the composition of the CCT.
All right.
We're supposed to have three
yes.
judges, and we had only two. What do you make of this?
Well, it is said that two will form a quorum and can sit. In this case, the two of them said, you know, there was an appeal against the decision to sit, and up to the Supreme Court, and it was confirmed that two is a quorum to sit over any matter in the tribunal. So, but as I had said before, the composition of the tribunal sitting over corruption cases, those that are handling the prosecution, including the witnesses, must be people that have passed integrity tests. If you bring just anybody, because maybe you know him from somewhere as a man that can do something and all that, and you bring him to sit over sensitive matters like this, without first of all beaming searchlight on his background to know whether he has one or two skeletons in his cupboard, you are doing more harm to the system than good. Because at the end of the day, when they now slot something out of his ears and then something begin to leak, they will now know that this man cannot actually deliver good judgment. And so they can even use that, as I said earlier, they can use that as a blackmail to tell him, if you don't go this way, we are going to do this, we are going to blow your antecedents to the whole world, and they will know that you are also not good, you are not clean, as you seem to. So these are issues that must be taken into consideration when you are constituting a tribunal, a court that is expected to sit over corruption cases. Corruption cases are not just ordinary or normal cases in court. They are cases that border on the integrity of the people. And so the person that is sitting as a judge or the chairman of the tribunal should be above board, should be seen to be somebody that anybody can vouch. Yes, this one, there's no doubt that he couldn't have been involved in this and all that. But the moment you bring somebody that has all these issues to sit in the tribunal, it becomes an issue. That's why I also believe that the tribunal should completely be dissolved. And then you look for people of proven integrity to be members of that tribunal. The moment you do that, it's not a matter of just talking like Professor Sage, sorry to say that, keeps blowing hot and cold all the time, saying that they have done this, they have done this, they have done that, when the normal thing has not been done. Have you looked inward? Look inward and then find out why it is possible for a case that is so clear that people believed this man had actually committed this offense and he should have been convicted, is bungled. Look inward and see how you can clean the system so that for the subsequent ones, if anyone comes after this one, we will not pass through the same road again.
All right. I was going to ask if the federal government has been painstaking enough, to come up with an anti-corruption team that would actually help it achieve its anti-corruption war. But Barsamona, you already answered my question.
Well, I could chip in.
All right, just chip in briefly, then we'll move on from that.
Okay. Honestly speaking, I don't think so. What we have had is just a one-man crusade. The presidency interested in fighting corruption, whereas you and I do know An institutional approach to the fight against corruption would have been more effective.
Yes.
I have said it times without number. Look at the role GTP played in the collapse of Bukola Saraki's case. Too many times, because the prosecution, the EFCC want to nail the defendant, the banks who should have been prosecuted alongside some of these people, they prefer to use them as prosecution witnesses. But at the end of the day, they also turn around to weaken or destroy the case of the prosecution. I have advocated that any bank in this country with stolen monies and found and all that, why can't we make a law that such a bank should be nationalized or their bank confiscated and sold by the federal government? And then the directors of those banks and also the customer officers also prosecuted and they're liable. Remember the case of the BCCI overworld, one bank owned by a Pakistani man who was said to be engaged in helping drug barons to launder monies. Immediately the Western world got wind of that. All the BCCI banks around the world were shut down by the Western world. It was only in Nigeria where we bent the rule and just changed the name of the bank. And the bank continued operation. That is what. Also look at those who are prosecuting some of these cases. One would have expected the EFCC to have approached some of this in a very transparent manner. Advertise for prosecutors. And when people submit applications, you scrutinize based on integrity, based on
track records.
But when you see some of these people prosecuting cases for them, there are people we can't mention their names. They should be cooling their feet in that Kirikiri prison or in Bama prison. These are the people prosecuting cases. Without the EFCC or the ICPC or the code of conduct looking at the backgrounds of some of these people. And also more importantly, I know that we require to really overhaul the CCP and the CCT. I see a lot of very delinquent, juvenile delinquency. I'm sorry to use the word, being displaced by the chairman of that tribunal. I would prefer a more matured mind, a more seasoned lawyer, somebody like Akabi when he was head of ICPC, a lawyer who is thoroughly grounded in terms of wealth of experience, and you have them in all the different state high courts and all the federal high courts.
Yes.
There are professors in some of these federal high courts, in some of these state high courts.
You don't have you're not short of brilliant
at all, because most of these young people are still looking for money, whereas some of these old and experienced people, they just want a reputation, they want a name. They know they must not be seen to soil their hands. So it is that kind of people that you require to have in some of these places. But like I said, the most important that we require to do is to approach this fight against corruption from an institutional perspective. We need to also amend the laws guiding lawyers in the performance of their duties. Chartered accountants in the performance of their duty. Estate or developers or people in the property business in the performance of their duty. You find that most of the money is being stolen. Most of the transactions are passing through the hands of lawyers, through the hands of stockbrokers,
accountants,
through the hands of a lot of these people. In the case of James Ibori, the first person to be jailed in the UK was his lawyer. How many lawyers have been convicted? When these people steal money and give it to this lawyer to do a deed of assignment for property that they buy, do they ever ask questions? When the chief of their staff, the chief of admin staff, who is on a salary of less than 3 million, is buying property worth billions of naira. Do you ask questions? So we need to amend all the laws, rules, and regulations guiding the practices of some of these professional bodies in this country. That is another institutional approach. And then for the police and the EFCC, I'm sorry to say, a lot of you have been saying, the man in the EFCC is fantastic, this and that. Honestly speaking, for me, as far as I'm concerned, his work has been very, very pedestrian. I haven't seen anything revolutionary about it. Until the Buhari came and energized the fight against corruption, he had always been the EFCC. What has been his role? So you need a neutral person. And also for the police, we even need to bring in people from outside who are not policemen to come and help the police as it is done in South Africa. Because the set of police that we see, the set of some of the people I see in the ICPC, in the EFCC, for God's sake, if we continue to use such persons to fight this corruption, we are going nowhere.
All right, let's take a look at some of the reactions of Nigerians. I'll start with that of the Senate President, who described his trial at the CCT as torturous. He said he knew he was innocent of the charges against him and was ready to clear his name. Saraki, in a statement, said his victory at the tribunal had given hope to the common man that Nigeria's judiciary could dispense justice. All right. I'll quickly take that of Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose, who hailed the victory of Saraki at the CCT as another victory for Nigerians over tyranny. When this statement is made, I think I'll start with that of Ayodele Fayose, very simple, when the statement is made that when a politician wins at the court or something, he says, this is victory for Nigerians. How, it pricks me. How does this victory of Saraki translate to victory of Nigerians according to Governor Ayodele Fayose? What do you make of this?
In my own opinion, I think that's a political statement aimed at getting some points. We have known the governor of Ekiti State to be a major opposition to the present government, and anything that the government makes an attempt at trying to do and do not do well, he has a statement to make on it. So I think before now we should know his stand on the efforts of the present administration. However, when cases of those natures are brought up against high-standing or high-ranking Nigerians, say the Senate President, as in this instance, you expect reactions from whatever the outcome would be. You expect reactions. And for the governor of Ekiti State to have come out to support the Senate President, I am not surprised. I am not surprised.
All right, okay. And let me quickly react to that of Saraki, who said his acquittal has given hope to the common man that Nigeria's judiciary could dispense justice.
Very well. His acquittal is actually a very serious dent on the integrity of this nation. His acquittal is not, in fact, has destroyed the common man. It's not helping the common man in any way. Because what happens is that the common man in quote, who is outside there will now see corruption as something that can be done and then you go scot-free. Something you indulge in, anything you can do, anything goes. A country that anything goes. That is what he depicts by saying that his acquittal is a victory for Nigerians and all that. It's wrong. It's very, very wrong. There's no way that acquittal has not dented the image of this nation. There's no way that acquittal has not made some people somewhere to sit down and think and start thinking, well, we can do this and go scot-free, provided we have people that can play politics with it for us. There's no way that acquittal has helped this nation in any way positively. It has not. So in any case, whenever somebody in this nation, we are so used to situations that the moment somebody wins in the court, it will say that is victory for democracy, that is victory for this and all that. And the party that has lost will say that is a very serious dent. In fact, it's a travesty of justice, and we are going on appeal. So we are used to all those things. Immediately somebody is able to go through this. He said he was ready to clear his name. How I wish the chairman had allowed him to enter the witness box so that Nigerians will hear him give his evidence to clear his name. This one, he has not done anything to clear his name. It's only that the people that he put there, he had solid defense lawyers. When you think of people like you know, Paul Usoro and all that, you know that these are not small So these people know how to go about it both legally and politically to ensure that the charges crashed, as it were. And they have crashed.
Please, can I quickly chip in something? You see, Bukola Saraki is mocking us. And it's also part of the impunity that we continue to see in some of these functionaries of government. You remember when Dogara, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, was accused of a budget padding? You remember what he said? He said he's a lawyer, there is nothing like budget padding in the Nigerian laws.
Yes.
And all that. So because they know there are no consequences to their actions. But when you look at the newspapers, you look at the social medias, and you look at the faces of the ordinary man on the street. Forget about the rented crowd that we saw in Ilorin.
Yes.
They had got wind of what judgment that the tribunal was going to deliver. And they had printed a t-shirt and made a face cap. Because how was it possible that within just 2 hours of the reading of the judgment, there were people wearing face caps and then wearing this thing and jubilating on the street?
But it
was pre-planned. It was pre-planned. So when that judgment was read, I called several people in Kwara State, because I'm from Kwara State. There were a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth in different homes in Kwara State. There are people in Kwara State, especially at the local government level, who have not received salary in the last 11 months. There are other retirees who have died because their pensions are not paid. And yet, despite their salaries are not being paid, you can't go to Kwara State today and see any physical or major development taking place as you sometimes see in an environment like Lagos. So where is the money going? It's just being shared by the airlines of Kwara State, who are very, very indolent. They don't do anything. Most airlines of Kwara State don't do any job. They're on the payroll of the Kwara State government. The retainership fee is paid for them for one reason or the other. So when Bukola Saraki says some of these things and all that, it's a continuation of the impunity and a way of mocking us as a people. That what can we do? But you see, the dictum of Lord Denny is very, very important to some of these things. Lord Denny had said that what makes up of fair hearing, or a test of fair hearing, or that judgment has really been fair, is what the ordinary man on the street who has seen through the process and the procedure in the court and comes out knocking his head, I think justice has been done in this case. It is not what we lawyers even say, not what the judges say. So if the ordinary man on the street is angry that Bukola Saraki has been discharged, then you should know that he ought not to be saying the kind of thing that he's saying that is a victory for the ordinary man. It is not. And let us also let the ordinary Nigerian people know that Bukola Saraki has not been acquitted, though. He was only discharged on technical grounds. The statements was not taken, that the evidence is presented were hearsay evidence, that there was no proper investigation. It was only intelligence reports that were gathered. In a decent society, Umar or the Danladi Umar, who was the chairman of the CCT, would have asked him to enter the witness and defend this case. Yes.
All right, still on reactions, Transparency International Nigeria has described the acquittal at the CCT as a calculated attempt to demoralize the anti-corruption fight in Nigeria. Okay, do you share the sentiment?
Yes, I share the same sentiment.
But before you go on here, this just came to demoralize the anti-corruption fight of the federal government. Is it the defendants here, or the prosecution, or the federal government itself that is demoralizing its anti-corruption fight?
In my own opinion, I think you cannot totally blame the federal government.
Okay. Because
there's little or so much that the federal government as it is can do. There are organs and sub-sectors of the executive arm of government whose duty it is to ensure that things are done properly. Now, if there's the political will on the part of the federal government to ensure that this is done the right way, and some persons who has a duty directly to ensure that the right thing is done fail in that duty, I think it can be said to be a demoralization on the part of the federal government, because the government has the political will to ensure that the right thing is done.
Is the political will enough to fight this anti-corruption war?
The political will is not enough. That's why they have clamored, and I support them, that the federal government urgently needs to overhaul most of these institutions that we talk about. Now, the Code of Conduct Bureau is a bureau that ordinarily should not have membership of any kind of person who has an unimpeachable character. There should be people with integrity, people whose personality is known even before their membership of the tribunal. They are not individuals that have questionable character. Now, when the government, in appointing some of these people, find bad eggs amongst them, it is the continuous duty of government to ensure that the people with the right character can only be the ones to take these positions. Because you cannot fight corruption in this country if the Code of Conduct Tribunal, or Bureau as it were, is not active. Because that is the only organ of government recognized to check the activities of public officers. And we all know that corruption basically is a public office thing. From the civil service to the administration to government to defense to all sectors of government. Now, if the Code of Conduct Tribunal or Bureau is not strong, I believe a lot of things would fly and corruption will continue to thrive. So we call on the government to ensure that most of these parastatals of government are looked into. There should be constant checks, investigations, and they should ensure that the law is followed to the letter. Because I would say that this charge against Saraki that he has been acquitted of or discharged as it were, I do not think he's the only one that should be facing trial as at today. If we look at it, everybody is guilty. Our politicians are all guilty. Most of them have accounts abroad. Most of them live higher than their means. Nobody is asking questions. It is sad enough that it now seems like the government is only politically inclined to prosecute the people who have not been in their good books. That is how it seems now. But unfortunately, I think the government should go beyond that. They should look and ensure that the laws of Nigeria are not for a selected few. It should apply to everybody, including the civil servants, the politicians, and the people in government offices.
All right.
I think there is a gang up somewhere. My colleague has just said something that ignites some thinking in my mind. There is a gang up somewhere by these corrupt politicians that if Saraki is convicted, there's going to be yes, a ripple effect on all the others. And so to ensure that that does not happen, this must be killed at this stage. Because several of them are guilty already of all these issues, offenses that Saraki is being charged of. Several of them had collected double salary as senators while they were, as ex-governors while they were senators. Several. And so, in fact, I believe all of them, none of them that did not collect. So when they look at it and say, if this man is convicted, these people will come after us. So it is important to nip this more, now. Quench the fire when it is not too late. And then gang up, make sure that this matter did not go beyond the stage that I keep saying that.
At a point, the case was going on smoothly,
yes,
and all of a sudden, it started dragging.
Yes.
That is when some Nigerians were skeptical
yes,
about the outcome.
Yes, we became skeptical because we knew that the moment that happened, at the end of the day, what we are going to have would be what we have gotten now. That's the situation. Because once politicians stand up, rise up to defend corruption, as it were, is a terrible thing. Like my colleague said, the political will to fight corruption is what we need in this country. And I think, apart from the president himself, unfortunately, he's not here now. I still believe if the president were to be on ground, this
wouldn't have happened.
Might not have happened. I want to believe it. Because you cannot look at it would have reacted in a very, a way that they themselves would have been afraid of. So they would have been afraid of giving this kind of ruling in this matter. So he is the one that has the political will. The others are just lining up for what will come out of whatever they eat and go home as usual. Business as usual. That is the challenge. That is the problem we are having here. So the political will is not there to fight this corruption to a standstill. Once there is a political will, in fact, I used to defend due process and all that. If you are fighting corruption, you have to set aside due process. That's the truth of it. There are ways, there are issues that you have to be involved in, so that you can fight this corruption to a minimal stage.
You're proposing drastic measures.
Drastic measures that will ensure that this corruption is nipped in the bud. Otherwise, if we continue this way, I keep saying that it might not happen in our days, it might happen in when our children and grandchildren will be there. Something will happen in this nation that it will conflagrate, will burn, so that people will no more be able to carry their heads off. It is important for us to fight this corruption at this stage, so that we are able to live a clean society. The societies that they are running out into, the UK, the US, and all that, those countries had to fight corruption to a certain. You cannot use your money, the 1 million pounds in UK. You cannot move it to another account and all that without them knowing what happened. How did you get it? How did you generate this 1 million pounds to be able to move to so account? You can't. In Nigeria, as I'm talking, somebody can move 1 billion naira from one account to the other. Nobody questions you. Nobody. So until we get to the point that we know that we have to fight this corruption with with strong political will, then there's no way we can move forward.
What you have said, don't you think at this point we should just take a back seat on this issue of fighting corruption and go ahead to strengthen institutions before we go ahead?
Very well. That is the issues. I mean, that is the issue that is on ground now. That is what we have been suggesting. Corruption is institutionalized. Is a systemic thing. So you have to move it from that system. You have to fight it from that system to be able to get it out of the system. So you have to look for ways to make laws that will
use a weak system to fight corruption.
You can't.
With what we've seen now.
Very well. So you cannot. So you have to make sure that the institution is strengthened. You have to ensure that there are apparatus that will be able to handle, to fight corruption from the system. So that if somebody walks into the land registry to do business, the clerk that is sitting down there will not expect you to give him gratification before your file will move to the next this and all that. Once that is done, it will move up to the to the head, and then there will be no issue of saying that person. Do you know that the moment they appoint you as a commissioner or the minister or any political office, the civil servants that are in that office will be the ones that will teach you how to steal money.
About it.
Yes, this is how they used to. You cannot survive. This is how you do it. This is how you just create these companies and give them contracts, and then all the money will come. All these things.
We have a long way to go.
It's institutionalized. It's systemic.
All right. Okay. Still on reactions. Though this view has been sort of agreed by both Barrister Munen and Barrister Badamosi, that this shows sort of that Nigerians' elites are kind of united, and they seem to have a way, or they seem to know the way to manipulate the judicial system. Do you think so?
Oh, of course, of course. In fact, my opinion is that the Nigerian elites have become a mafia, such as you see in the Latin Americans and some of these banana republics, in which the drug lords would have their own army, they have their men in the judiciary, they have in the police and all that. Such that when they have issues with the authorities and all that, those people are always there to help them sort out some of those things. I think that is the stage in which we are in this country today. And it is possible to fight some of these things. Just like my colleagues have said, if there is a political way, all we need to do is to put the structures in place to really get the system running. Take, for example, in most of the places where monies are stolen, there are accountants there, there are auditors there. Yes. But when these politicians and civil servants, have been prosecuted and all that, nobody will remember that there's an auditor in Kwara State, there's an accountant general who was paying Bukola Saraki when he was still receiving his salary in the Senate. Why was the auditor in Kwara State and the accountant general of Kwara State not prosecuted along Bukola Saraki? So if we begin to see prosecution in that direction, Because there is conspiracy, complicity in law for which they can be convicted.
That way people will stop aiding and abetting, because without anyone aiding
you find it difficult to get away with some of those things. If a few of the lawyers who are also colluding with some of these people, and we lawyers have been the most loudest in our condemnation of corruption, whereas in one way or the other we are aiding, in our own way and abetting corruption. You know, if we also play our part as officers in the temple of justice, I am sure some of these problems and challenges what we do have in this country is going to be minimized. The other area we really look at again is protection of witnesses. Some of the witnesses who went to court and started recanting, they may have been threatened. Because in the past there are some of these cases in which witnesses have been killed. Some, knowing that they are going to be killed, they will run abroad and all that. Some are compromised. In this society, we don't even have protection for witnesses. Also, when you go to court on a daily basis, for the case was in court for 2 years, and you expect a witness to be coming from his own, fueling his car, and all that, with his own money, without any reimbursement, he will leave his job. Very few people would have the patriotism to be able to do that for about 2 years, and all that. Look at when the case of Kanu was being had. In public interest and all that, the prosecutor said that some of the witnesses should be shielded from and all that. There were a lot of noises. I'm sure the prosecutor made that application, had his reasons for making it, either to protect those witnesses from being threatened or being killed and all that. But when you try to do that kind of a thing in this country, you will see loud noises being made from different places and all that. Again, the professionals too. Look at the deputy governor of Adamawa, or was it who has been convicted? He went to prison and the medical doctor generated a sick report. And with that, he's been freed from the prison. Has anybody gone to pick up that medical report to verify? Questions? And it's not the first thing it's going to be happening. The Oka brother, who is now serving jail in South Africa, when he was being detained here in Nigeria, a medical doctor wrote a long report that he has kidney problem, liver, kidney and all that. And then they pressurized the government that the president even put down a plane to take him to Germany for
which gives credence to what the question, and they found a way to manipulate the system.
Exactly. So the law must be done in such a way that it is not only the fly that will be caught in its web, the tiger must also be entrapped. Until we begin to entrap also the tigers in the web of the law, I'm not too sure you're ready to make it. In other countries, people don't even take you to court when they see you with illicit money, when they see you with money that you cannot account for. They merely seize it. A client of mine went to the UK with a £10,000. As soon as he wanted, he's a trader. As soon as he got to the UK, he was hiding the money somewhere. Somehow, sniffer dogs picked out this thing, and they brought out the money. They just collected the thing, documented it, and sent it to their treasury.
That was it.
That was the end of it. They asked him if you know, if you can justify where you got the money from. Go to court. It is here we start talking about the rule of law when we do know that since Bukola was born, he has never done any meaningful job. He came from the UK as a medical doctor, went to his father's bank as a director, and then Obasanjo appointed him as an assistant. From being an assistant, he went to be governor and then the Senate. Yes. All these are public offices. The salaries of the public offices are nothing to write home about. In fact, in a decent society, people like Bukola Saraki will never again be holding public office because of the role he played in his father's bank, Society General Bank. If you are incidental to the collapse of a bank, the security, the authorities must ask you questions. My old mother, who's dead now, was saving money in Society General Bank. And we will call us and say, look, when I die, I have enough money there for you to bury me. You don't have to spend a penny from your money. My mother was that kind of a person, saving money in Society Bank. Say, look, I'm saving money for my burial and everything. That money went down. And nobody has called Bukola Saraki and his parents, and his relations, another director, to account for what happened. If we were diligent, will a bank go down there as a director in the UK, in the US, another place, and then you will not be asked some questions?
Or blacklisted.
Or blacklisted.
Completely.
So much to say. What's the way forward? What do you think we can start doing now to get it right in this country? It seems to be so much to do. First of all, what are those things you think we can start doing?
I think we have to first of all start by electing the right people into government. We know the people that have a track record. We know those people who might be better off as leaders. We should start from electing better candidates as our leaders. And from there, we can now be looking at the integrity of our institutions, of the strength that comes with our institution, the respect and fear that people would have for these institutions. Some people get invitations from most of these anti-corruption institutions, they laugh it off because they know how best to handle it. The government has to look for a way to ensuring that cases like this do not happen often. People should have that mentality that if I'm involved in criminality or fraud, as it were, the chances that I will be able to escape is very low. So it will then now reduce the confidence and the effrontery with which people get involved in corrupt acts and unexpected attitudes become or expected of them as public officers. The public sector also needs to be revamped. We need to put the right people in place, ensure that our corruption fighting agencies are really, really, really strong. Because if you investigate a matter to this extent, you have evidence to show so many illegal transactions.
And yet,
you have documents to show so many transactions that had gone wrong, contrary to several laws in the country. And you go to court and end up losing 8 of 10 cases. We're not going anywhere. So there's a duty for the government to ensure that even before the public officers who have been indicted one way or another are made to know that there are several investigations going on against them, the government should have tidied up.
Yes.
Tidied up to the extent that even at the point of being confronted with these accusations, you will find it difficult to look for a way out. Then professionally too, like my learned friend has been saying today, the professional bodies also need a lot of checks. The lawyers that take up these cases also need to know that if they are found wanting professionally in any way, disciplinary measures, stiff disciplinary measures will be taken against them. It is only in Nigeria that a lawyer takes up a very bad case, he wins the case against all odds, and he becomes a popular lawyer. In Western world, when a case is bad, the lawyers would even advise you to throw in the towel, to admit your guilt and expect a lighter sentence. But in Nigeria, they go all out and expect, and they've actually delivered in most occasions. That no matter how bad the case is, there's always a way around it. So I think professionals, lawyers, accountants, like we have noted today, we all need to go back. It's for the good of the nation. We all need to go back, look inward. It's not about making money from being professionally placed in places where you can get briefs. But we need to see it as a fight to save the nation. And we expect a lot from our government. We expect that if individuals with questionable character are being noted, are being identified in any parastatal, the government should ensure that even if there's a presumption of innocence on their part, they should step aside. That is the best. It's only in Nigeria that you see in the Senate today, 80% of our senators are undergoing some form of criminal investigation or not. It is disgraceful and shameful. These are public offices that we need people of high integrity. But the opposite is the going concern now in Nigeria. So we expect so much from our government, and we expect them to live up to expectations.
All right, this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. It has been an interesting one. You must agree with me. Thank you, Barrister Tunde Kolawole, for coming on the show.
For having me.
Barrister Mike Munden, thank you.
I'm grateful.
And Barrister Ahmed Bedamosi, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my name is Judith Irenoa. Thank you for staying with us, and do join us 2:30 to 4 next Sunday for another exciting edition. Do enjoy the rest of your day.